Hailing from the great cold state of Alaska, I am the Frozen Gamer, and tonight I have two guys from the GWW joining me to talk about the Nintendo Switch presentation coming up. Now, obviously, Nintendo has not confirmed anything yet, but it's very likely that on January 11th, which is about a year from the last presentation they had, when they first really got more in depth with the Switch, that Nintendo is going to be talking about what is coming for the year 2018. So, even though it's not confirmed, we're going to go ahead and talk about it this evening. But as far as the gentlemen joining me this evening, first of all, we have a man who wants a Switch large enough to mount to his wall, Mr. Joe Barhoum.
And then unmounted as well. Thanks for having me.
And secondly, we have a man who wants his Switch saves to be transferable to a chip in his arm, Mr. Kenney Newville.
That way, when, my Switch dies, they can't take my arm. Or my saves.
But they could put Deus Ex on the system, and then everything just gets weird.
I just want, like, the twisty hand mechanic, where I could just, like, twist things. You know, like soda bottles and stuff like that.
Let's not go through the list of things you twist.
Okay. We don't have all night.
So as far as what we're actually going to cover this evening, we're going to give our predictions, give three realistic predictions, three wishful predictions, that is predictions that are probably not going to happen, but there's still things we would like to see, and three predictions that are completely ridiculous, things that will probably never happen, but we would still like to have happen. So we're going to start off doing one at a time, and I'd like to start with Joe. Why don't you give me your first realistic prediction?
I do think that we'll finally get a release date for Metroid. You may remember that last year, 2017, they did announce there would be a Metroid Prime 4 coming to the Switch. I think we'll get a date, and I was kind of in the middle on this one between realistic and wishful, because they could totally hold this out until the spring. I mean, there's no reason for them to play this card unless it's happening soon. And I think it would be a huge, huge opportunity for them to release it as early as March or April. So getting a date on this month would be, I think, realistic.
Very nice. Yeah.
Man, I think that's just a little crazy. Are you talking about a release date for 2018, or a release date will be released in 2018, or will be announced in 2018?
We are announcing. No, I believe that they will give us a release date for Metroid on this next Direct.
Okay, and it'll be within calendar year or Nintendo fiscal year?
Calendar year. I think it's important for them to give us a next big hit here in the spring. I think they're going to do it.
All right, man.
I'm going to have to disagree with you there. I really do not think they're going to give us an actual release date. Release window, I think there's a chance of that, definitely, but release date, I'm sorry, I don't think that's going to happen. I mean, pretty much, unless it's coming out first quarter, there's pretty much no chance that we'll get an actual release date, in my opinion, at least.
Let's see how it goes. We're all speculating here. My heart is not broken.
But it will be.
It will be. It will be. All right, Kenny, what is your first realistic prediction?
Online plans. I mean, they got to talk about them. They hinted about what their basic plans were. They did like a 60,000 foot view. I mean, maybe even higher. Where they talked about taking some old games, throwing some multiplayer in them. They would be, free for a month maybe. And there's been some walking back on that, whether that meant that it was more like PlayStation Plus, where if you had a Nintendo online subscription, which we'll get to in a minute, then you could download the game and play it as long as you have the subscription. But most people are sitting here thinking they might have just meant the month that they have it for free, and then you have to buy it after that. And then also, again, a subscription, which I think they've already outlined. I think that's pretty much out there. Is it like $20 for a year or something like that?
Yeah.
So that's not bad at all. I mean, I'd gladly pay $20 a year to have improved online support. So ditch this stupid phone app. Give us party support on the Switch, and then also start taking a look at taking a look at Virtual Console, guys. I mean, Breath of the Wild's great, and the DLC from what I hear is extensive, but we need some older Zeldas.
Yes, we do.
I have too much money.
Apparently.
So, yeah, I think online plans will have to be
As far as my realistic prediction goes, I firmly believe that we are going to get confirmations of both GTA 5 and Red Dead Redemption. GTA 5 is really just a no-brainer for Rockstar because they already have made so much money off of it that even if it sold 0 copies on the Switch, which it will definitely sell a whole lot more than that, probably at least 1 million copies, they would still make their money back because they're not having to actually develop anything. All they're really having to do is, cost of porting it over. So personally, I think that that's very, very likely. I mean, it's going to happen. And then on top of that, Red Dead Redemption, I think, is a very strong possibility because we have Red Dead Redemption 2 coming out this year. The current Red Dead Redemption is not playable on anything except previous gen consoles unless you have an Xbox One with backwards compatibility. And so it just makes perfect sense for them to release this game again on PS4, Xbox One, and Switch. Because there's no reason the Switch can't run it. I mean, it's more powerful than both last gen consoles, a little bit less powerful than the Xbox One, and yeah, they might have some challenges with portable mode, but honestly, I don't think it's going to be that significant because realistically, even with portable mode, it's still running, I believe, at a higher clock speed, has more video RAM to work with than the PS3 and 360 did. And so I just really think it's going to happen. And yeah,
I see where you're going with that. I have to say, I think I'm in like the 5% of gamers that absolutely do not give a flying crap about GTA in any capacity, much less GTA 5. But Red Dead would be fantastic to have if they could pull it off. LA Noire looks better on Switch than it did on PS3 and Xbox 360. So did Skyrim. Draw distance in Skyrim wasn't as much of a problem, but in LA Noire, man, driving around some of the cities, you just had, like, I almost got there before the textures did. So I would love to have Red Dead. I hope you're right. Gosh, I hope you're right. Just take my money. But whew, that's going to be a fine line.
Yeah, I'm on board with you there, Kenny. I think Red Dead would be just clutch. And we all know Red Dead 2 is coming out. It's already been confirmed for PC, PS4, and Xbox, but it hasn't been confirmed for Switch, so...
Actually, it hasn't been confirmed for PC.
You sure about that? Well, regardless, it certainly has been confirmed for the Switch, so what is it... what kind of strategy is it? I'm not saying it's a bad strategy, I'm just curious what you guys think. What kind of strategy is it for Rockstar to announce a port of Red Dead to the Switch, but not Red Dead 2 on the Switch this year?
Well, I think Nathan mentioned that the potential for a Red Dead remastered, so to speak, to be ported over to PS4 and Xbox One simultaneously with the Switch version, like they did with LA Noire. It makes sense, right? They're all running similar architecture. Joe, correct me if I'm wrong there. You know more about hardware than I do.
You sound like a genius. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think that it's a no-brainer for them just to port it to PS4 and Xbox One, just kind of like a nice lead-up, like EA really should have done with Mass Effect prior to Andromeda, but or maybe not, because then people might have hated Andromeda even more after playing Mass Effect trilogy. But then in terms of the Switch, I understand what you're saying. Why give them a 7-year-old port and not announce any plans for the second one? Well, I think that Switch owners have a very realistic expectation of their console. And take a look at Doom, for example. I mean, the game apparently looks like mud on a 50-inch or higher, or even lower a little bit. But people are really happy with the way that it's actually running. So I think that if you throw Rockstar fans a bone, another bone after LA Noire, give them Red Dead, I don't think too many people are going to be complaining that Red Dead 2 isn't coming to their Switch. They're probably going to want to play it on their PS4.
Yeah, I mean, I think that... I mean, we'll kind of get into that later, but... yeah, Red Dead 2 seems highly unlikely, but I think Red Dead it really would fit perfectly. And like you guys, honestly, GTA, it just doesn't appeal to me anymore. But I loved Red Dead Redemption, and I played it on PS3, and I wanted to actually play it again, and I tried last year, but the game kept freezing on me. Like, I played like maybe, I don't know, a couple hours, and it would consistently freeze up on me, and it didn't matter if I got updated to latest version or if I rolled back to a previous version, it was just constantly freezing on me. And I've waited years to get Red Dead on PC because I was like, okay, you know, I'd love to play it on there, max out everything, make it the, you know, best possible version. But now I'm just like, you know, if this game actually comes to Switch, that would be amazing. I don't care if it doesn't look as good as it would on PC, because it's going to be still great looking, and it's going to be a ton of fun. Plus, I can play it anywhere. So,
well, before we move on, my last question about this and, you know, its viability as a prediction. I don't actually watch a lot of the Nintendo Directs. I tend to read about them afterward. Does Nintendo have a history of announcing these types of games on Nintendo Direct? Or is it only usually about first-party titles?
They do a pretty good variety. I mean, you know, with Doom and Wolfenstein, they announced both of those just as a like really quick thing, because, you know, they've been doing more of a quick fire thing with the Nintendo Directs lately, and I don't see any reason why they wouldn't. I think that, in fact, I think it would be foolish of them not to, just because of the fact that it's going to appeal to so many people, and it's, you know, going to get a lot more people on board seeing Nintendo getting these big third-party games.
Awesome.
All right, so do you guys want to continue with the realistic predictions first, or move on and do wishful and ridiculous, and then just go back through them again from there?
It's your show.
All right, well, go ahead, Kenny.
Oh, I was just gonna say, yeah, it's your show. I think it might be nice to just kind of like knock out the realistic and then eventually fade into just pure madness.
All right. Sounds great.
But it's up to you, man.
Okay, sounds good. All right, well then let's go ahead and continue with the realistic predictions. So Joe, what's your next one?
So the next one on my list is Yoshi. Going to be coming out in March. They'll announce Yoshi for March.
Now, your notes say Yoshi RD. What do you mean by RD?
Release date.
Oh, release date. Duh. Okay, that makes sense.
Yoshi Red Dead March. The ultimate crossover. We did Mario Rabbids. Now we're doing Yoshi Red Dead.
Yeah, and they'll just get the version of they'll get Rabbid Yoshi, you know, with the minigun.
Absolutely.
Like,
That'll be a bunch of rabid Yoshis will be the G-men at the end of Red Dead Redemption.
There we go. Okay, spoiler alert.
Yeah, sorry, it's 8 years old.
Yeah,
People
that's
catch
fine.
up. If you haven't played Red Dead, like you need to check your life.
Well, no, I think you're probably right. Whether or not it'll be March, I don't know, but I definitely would say, I mean, Yoshi's gonna get a release date. I personally think Kirby's coming before Yoshi. Because of the fact that, at least with Kirby, we already have an actual name for it, whereas Yoshi, all we have is Yoshi at this point.
I think that is the name of the game, isn't it?
No, I think that's just the working title.
It's kind of lazy.
Well, I mean, they've done that with other things, too, before they, you know, gave it the subtitle.
Yoshi Red Dead. Calling it.
Yeah, I hope so.
I know that my son will love the Yoshi game. I'm like, I probably wouldn't get it normally, but my son just loves Yoshi. He has this stuffed Yoshi that my sister got him for his first Christmas, and he's had it since he was a baby, and he loves it. It's like it's the one thing that he has that he'll kiss. He doesn't even kiss us. he'll give us hugs, and it's pretty clear he loves us, but it's not.
Well, buy a good screen protector when you play that game, then.
Oh, I already have a screen protector. I got tempered glass on when I first got my Switch. Haven't had any issues with it. But anyway, so Kenny, what is your next realistic prediction?
Well, since everyone's talking about games and stuff, I figure I'll take the boring and obvious stuff. I think, well, at least it should be obvious. To any other company, it'd be obvious. Maybe I should move these to the wishful thinking. But my second one, following the online plans, my first, quality of life improvements. So folders. Now, there's been a couple images that have been floating around Twitter. I'm sure you've all seen them with like background images and folders and Hulu and Netflix. And they've been debunked. But I think folders would be a natural addition to the Switch. First of all, the UI is really clean. Really like it. I don't really want them to clutter it up with anything better or greater than they already offer. Unless, of course, they offered it as a choice. You could have the clean look, or you could have something more akin to the Xbox One or what have you. But I think folders would be very nice. Not going into the all games section. Also being able to sort your games would be nice alphabetically. Maybe by how many hours you've played the game. Speaking of which, quality of life improvement. You have a company that nailed an hour counting system, a time counting system in its last 3 consoles. The Wii, the 3DS line, or the Wii, the 3DS line, and the Wii U. It was excellent. It was fantastic. I still love every time I open up my 3DS, going through there and seeing, oh man, I put 80 hours into Ocarina of Time. I beat it twice, and that's fantastic. It's awesome, and rating them and being like, holy crap, I put 90 hours into Animal Crossing. That's cool. So quality of life improvements, I think, are kind of a duh moment here as we near the 1 year anniversary.
Yeah, I honestly, I really hope you're right, because that's definitely something that I really want to see, especially the hour thing. I mean, that's the thing that by far irritates me the most about the way they have the Switch set up. It's ridiculous that you can't see it until you've had the game for like 10 days, and then on top of that, it just has like 5 hours or more, and it's just not specific, and it's so stupid.
You want to know the best part? The best part is I put 190 hours into Breath of the Wild. My Switch died. I had to send it back. They couldn't save my save file. They sent me a new console. Long story short, I popped in Breath of the Wild, started over, and it hasn't counted any of my hours. And I've played through like 3 of the Divine Beasts, so I know I've put some hours in. When I booted up Skyrim, when my Switch died the first time, the only time, I had 5 hours. It said like about 5 hours or something like that, I thought. Now that I've played Skyrim a little bit more, it started counting, but it didn't start counting again until the 5 hour mark. So it seems to me like if you lose your save files because of a defective system, you're going to have to put as many hours into the game that you already have before it starts counting the new hours, which is total garbage.
Agreed. Yeah, some other quality of life improvements, some things I would like to see with that. I would like it to be possible to display all of your titles. Like when, one thing that they have is when you get, I think it's at like 12 games or more, you can scroll over and then you can view all games at once. I want them to just make it so that you can do that all the time, because it annoys me, trying to find all my titles, or, if I want to actually see more than just 3 tiles at a time, if I want to see my collection and can't.
Right, I agree, and I think that folders would be a really easy solution to that. Mm-hmm. But basically just some customization for that awesomely clean home screen. Just give us some options.
Yeah, definitely.
This is America.
Yeah, second row would be great. Well, they have a history of folders, the 3DS.
Yeah, and I mean, the 3DS, they even made it so that you can tap an icon and it changes, the number of icons you have on the screen. I mean, adding that would be something simple that they could do that would just make it better, for those of us who want it to be displayed that way.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Okay, so my next realistic prediction, much like what Joe had already mentioned, I think that we're actually going to get release dates for both Yoshi and Kirby, or at least I would say Kirby, I think we're going to get an actual release date. Yoshi, I think it's going to be more of a release window. Like, give us an idea, spring, summer, whatever it happens to be. But I do think that there's a reasonably good chance that we could get both of them first quarter. Or, I don't know, I guess maybe not both of them. Probably get one of them first quarter and the other second quarter.
That'd be smart. I mean, they need to save some of their first party to spread throughout the year. And let's be real, the majority of people who are pretty knowledgeable about this stuff are doubting Nintendo's 2018 roadmap. So I think it would be very wise of them to say, Kirby or Yoshi, your first quarter, the other one's second quarter, and then we roll into whatever else comes out.
All right. Well, Joe, did you have any additional thoughts on that? Or
I don't. Nope.
Okay, so let's go into our final realistic predictions. So, Joe, why don't you start us off?
Sure. Wait, let's see. Final realistic. I don't know if you guys have read this, but I'm not a Pokemon guy, so I just read the headlines, but apparently the Pokemon RPG has been leaked. And so I suppose that's pretty realistic that they'll tell us a little more about that.
Yeah, I didn't see anything about that, which is surprising to me, because I'm usually pretty regularly checking out YouTube and stuff. What?
Again, I'm not a Pokemon guy, so I'm not quite sure, but people are calling it Pokemon RPG.
Sorry, real quick. You say RPG.
Yeah.
How is that different from like a core Pokemon game? Man, I tell you what, if they launch a core Pokemon game, I don't know about anything that's a spin-off, Pikachu Snap or whatever, but if they launch a core Pokemon game this year, watch out. The Switch is just gonna be selling it's gonna be awesome.
Yeah, I mean, definitely. We need to see something about Pokemon, but I don't think there's going to be anything yet. And I haven't heard anything about this Pokemon RPG leak, so I'm going to have to look into that.
It's out there, guys.
I think the last Pokemon I played was Heart Gold, and I did get in it pretty deep, which is why I actually put it down, because I was like playing a lot of Pokemon. But on the Switch, it's a little different, and it's also a different part of my life right now. Like with my 4-year-old, I think she might actually really enjoy starting to learn that and get familiarized with that concept. And so I think I could go. I could probably get pretty crazy with some Pokemon on Switch.
You can get nuts with that Pokemon.
I'm gonna go pretty deep in the Pokemon.
I just think that whatever they do with Pokemon, they really need to make it like a true 3D Pokemon game. Because starting with Pokemon X and Y, it kind of went that way, but it was only like partially. And I mean, it was some good steps in the right direction, but it just wasn't quite, that thing that I envisioned when I was a kid, back during the N64 days when, thinking that at the time, at least, how amazing it would be to have, those Game Boy games as fully 3D Pokemon games.
Agreed.
All right. So let's see here. Where were we? All right, Kenney, your third prediction.
Yeah, this is my first game prediction, and it's pretty generic, but I'm pretty hopeful for it, and I think it'd be kind of an easy thing for them to do. So more Wii U ports. We got Mario Kart, the deluxe edition, which of course was fantastic on the Wii U. Probably one of the Wii U's better games that was native to the console, and brought it over to Switch with all the bells and whistles, and it's even better. I mean, Mario Kart on the Switch is kart racing perfection. Now, take the Switch and bring Smash Brothers from the Wii U. Oh my gosh. I mean, they don't even need to recreate Smash Brothers for this to be a success. especially if they just announced, hey, we're bringing over Smash Bros. To the Wii U. Here it is. It's available. It's going to be awesome. You can take it with you anywhere. Multiple players because you got Joy-Cons, all that stuff. Oh, and by the way, here is a USB GameCube controller for when you're playing docked, or maybe a GameCube Pro controller that will pave the way for GameCube VC. So I think that's a home run right there. I don't think they'll announce all of that, but Wii U ports is really the key there.
Yeah, I definitely would like to see some Wii U ports. There are a number of games that just didn't do very well on Wii U, and even some games that personally I got on Wii U, or wanted to get on Wii U and just either never got around to buying it or never got around to finishing them for one reason or another. That would be fantastic on the Switch. I would really like to see Tokyo Mirage Sessions on there, because I played a decent amount of it, but I had a hard time sticking to it, and I think that having it as a portable game, or at least having the option to play it portably, since it doesn't have off-TV play on the Wii U version, would be really, really cool. And I do think Smash is going to come at some point. I'll kind of get more into that a little bit when we get to our wishful predictions, but I'm all for more Wii U ports, even if some of them I won't necessarily buy. I'm not buying the Bayonetta games because I already played those, and I don't really have a desire to play them again, personally.
See, and I never got to play those. Well, I had the opportunity. I had plenty of opportunity to play those games. And I didn't. So I'll probably pick them up. Captain Toad, Treasure Tracker. I think that's a real obvious one. Just throw it up there. I mean, Captain Toad's in Odyssey, so you can ride that wave, bring it back, almost breathe new life into the whole.
That was a really good game, and they could do a ton of sequels to that, make a little franchise out of it. I think if it had sold better because they had a bigger installed base with the Wii U, then they probably would have made a franchise out of it.
Yeah, that's one of those games that I really wanted to play because I love puzzle games, and I liked the Captain Toad puzzles that they had in 3D World. But yeah, it's just one I never got around to buying, and now that the Wii U is dead and the Switch is living on, I'm just hoping and praying that they're actually going to bring that.
There's a very good chance that you would like that game. If you love puzzles and everything you just said, you got to get your hands on it one way or another.
Oh yeah, I mean, there's no question that I'm going to play it at some point. It's just a matter of when, because of, time and being an adult and all that.
It is short. It's 5 hours. Just FYI. But yeah, you'll love it.
Well, and Captain Toad is great for younger kids that have dexterity but not necessarily reading skills yet, because there's not a whole lot of written word in there that's necessary to play the game. It's a lot of intuition and walking around and so I feel like it'd be a great couch co-op, in the sense that you're passing the controller back and forth between my daughter's 4 or maybe a little older.
So as far as my last realistic prediction, I really think that we're going to see some footage of the new Fire Emblem game. I don't know what it's going to be like. I know it's definitely not going to be that rumored pirate-themed one, because that's just ridiculous nonsense. But I do think we're going to see something about the new Fire Emblem game.
And as long as it isn't a Muso, I might actually try to play it.
Yeah, I mean, the only one I've really, really gotten into is Awakening, which is really, really good. I kind of stopped at one point and I never got back to it, but that's one of those games that I'll eventually get back into. I don't think I'm probably going to buy the one for Switch unless I just am really craving that kind of game, just because I still haven't finished Awakening, but who knows? We'll see.
Yeah, I like the idea of Fire Emblem, but I could never really get into Fire Emblem. So hopefully this one on the Switch, because it'll be more accessible to me, because that's what the Switch does, right? It makes it more accessible. Maybe then I'll get into it, and I'll appreciate your guys' energy and excitement about it.
You tried on the 3DS, Joe?
I did. I actually put a good 4 or 5 hours into, I think, the first one for 3DS, and then I I was just like, wait a minute, I know how the story ends. I'm not playing this anymore. I moved on.
Oh, well, that's a bummer. Yeah, I don't really know anything. I mean, I only knew like one, major twist, which, I mean, it didn't give me a reason to not play personally, because I still was interested in everything else that happened with the story. But the main thing really that just kind of wore me down after a while was that I prefer to play with permadeath on, but then it's also annoying because every time I make a big mistake and lose someone I don't want to lose, then I have to restart the level.
Very annoying.
Which is annoying. Yeah. But
well, I never tried the 3DS versions, or I guess any of them, and so that's why I think the Switch might be my first onboarding experience. I've been feeling a calling to try Xenoblade Chronicles 2. I haven't played any of the other ones, and I can't shake it. And I think it is because, Joe, you mentioned it was supposed to be the console that makes everything accessible, and I kind of feel like that may be the case. Whether it is or not, I feel as if it is. So we'll see.
Yeah, the main thing with Xenoblade Chronicles 2 that you have to keep in mind if you decide to play it is that it takes a while for you to really get much of anything as far as like the more complicated aspects of the battle system, because initially, I mean, when you start off, they really just kind of ease you into how the battle system works without giving you all the advanced tactics, and so it takes a while before some of those things even are told to you at all. And that might make it a little too slow for you. Personally, it hasn't bothered me because of the fact that I played the other two Xenoblade games, and I loved both of them. This one, I think, takes a little bit longer to get going with that part, but I still found that the characters were interesting, and there was enough intrigue there to keep me going.
We'll take that into consideration. The combat is the thing that's kept me away from it so far. The screen looks very complex. And I've heard several reviewers say that even after, 60 hours, they were introducing new mechanics.
I'm not sure if that's true, but even the one thing is that there's never, even though it might seem like it's really complex, the reality is it isn't that complex. It's just that there are some things that they kind of ease you into, learning different techniques you can use to make the battles flow better. But I don't know. I mean, it's one of those things, to each his own. And personally, I would say, if you're gonna play a Xenoblade game, I think it's better to start with the original Xenoblade Chronicles or Xenoblade Chronicles 3D on new 3DS. Of course, if you don't like using the 3D effect, the very muddy graphics might bother you. But
yeah. Well, in that case, I will probably steer clear, since we're going to have a plethora of new games to play after January 11th, right?
Yeah, right.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, the other thing is that you can actually get that one on Wii U. I mean, they have the equivalent of Virtual Console, where you can get Xenoblade Chronicles, the Wii version. And I mean, if you still even have your Wii U plugged in and everything, or don't mind using it, then it's worthwhile, and you can do it either on the TV or
I feel like this is probably a tangent, and so just shoot it down, definitely, but I just feel like I'll get it out there. I never actually minded using my Wii U. I just never felt like there were too many terribly compelling reasons to do so. I don't mind the surfboard controller. Obviously, the Switch is a better alternative. So the minute that VC comes to the Switch, which I think they could probably competently handle Wii games, I think that would be the best. That would be the best option.
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, we'll get more into it with one of my predictions later, but I do think that there's a pretty solid chance that we'll see games like that on there. I'm just kind of hoping that it'll be more like you can transfer your Virtual Console stuff up to Switch, and that way I don't have to worry about it, because I did buy the Wii version, even though I didn't really play very much of it, of Xenoblade Chronicles. But anyway, getting back to the topic at hand, So yeah, that was way off of topic from my prediction of the Fire Emblem Switch game. So let's go into our wishful predictions. Those things that aren't necessarily are probably not going to happen, but you still would really like to see. So this time, why don't we start with Kenney?
Sure. Well, when the Switch was announced, they showed some dude playing Skyrim in his living room and then playing Skyrim on an airplane. And a lot of people were looking for Mario on Switch, and a lot of people were really excited about the next Zelda. And believe me, I was too. But really, the fulfillment of the promise that was the Switch came when Skyrim launched on that machine. That's what I want. I want to be able to play a very deep game mobily and on my TV, and not have to worry about like leaving The Witcher 3, for example, whenever I leave town. So Skyrim worked. Why can't Fallout? I think Fallout on the Switch would be fantastic. Now, notice how I did not provide a number after Fallout. I think that any of the Fallouts would be fantastic on Switch. So this is me wishfully pleading Nintendo and Bethesda, really, to allow Fallout to come to Switch in some capacity.
Would you be okay with
Yeah,
if they
I can definitely
took the mobile game and brought it to the Switch?
You can go yourself.
I am
You
with
said
Kenney
some
on that.
capacity.
Yeah, not that capacity, jerk. Yeah, you upset the baby, Joe.
Did I? My bad.
Yeah, because nobody wants that mobile game.
Fallout would be pretty incredible on Switch. I'd go back to New Vegas. I mean, New Vegas would be great, or of course Fallout 4 if possible. But one of the problems that I have with Skyrim on the Switch is that it's Skyrim, and this goes for Fallout, which is, does it end? Is there a real end? One of the things about the Switch is so brilliant right now is there's a ton of really good indie titles. And there's a ton of even just small AAA titles, too. By small, I mean smaller than Skyrim. If I had Fallout, boy, I don't know if I'd ever do anything else.
See,
Does Nintendo want that?
See, as much as I would be very, very okay with Fallout 3 or Fallout New Vegas coming to the Switch, Fallout 4 on the Switch would be a little bit of a Witcher 3 on the Switch moment. And for me, and what I mean by that is The Witcher 3 and Fallout 4 they both came at a point in time in my life when I didn't have 140 hours to sit in front of my television, unfortunately. And so, and maybe fortunately, but anyways, so the Switch is kind of the great equalizer, right? I mean, I put 190 hours into Breath of the Wild between its release in March and my console dying was that late October. So, wow. I mean, I could easily tackle Fallout 4, and I didn't. I haven't played it yet. So Fallout 4 on the Switch would be very good for me because while I've trampled the lands of Skyrim many times on many consoles, almost every iteration of that game, I haven't played enough Fallout 4 yet.
I think one of the differences, though, between...
Yeah.
Sorry, I keep cutting you off, Nathan. Let's just real quick. I think one of the differences between now and when the console launched in March with Zelda is there's so much more to play now. I think it'd be very difficult for you or I or Nathan to put in 100+ hours into any game right now on the Switch because there's just so much to play.
Joe, you and I talked about starting The Witcher 3 over again just like no less than 4 hours ago. And I'm very hesitant to do that because again, I feel chained. It's funny, I have a wireless controller for my PS4, but I'm very much wired to that machine. I will not be traveling anywhere with my Pro, but I will be traveling many places with my Switch. I'm going to bring it to work with me. I'm going to bring it to ballet where I can't watch my daughter dance because I might be a pedophile. And I'm going to bring it to, my parents' house and my in-laws' house. And I'm going to bring it everywhere. And then I'm also going to bring it to my basement, to my 52-inch, when the girls are sleeping and I'm gaming. So I feel like that the Switch, if Skyrim, if Breath of the Wild and Skyrim to some degree, are basically test subjects for what massive open world RPG could lead to on the Switch, I think they're wildly successful. I think the Switch is the best RPG console ever devised.
Yeah, I have to agree with Kenny. Especially, I mean, besides the fact that the Switch really is the best console for any big RPG. I mean, there's nothing possibly better. Like I always imagined, when I was younger, I'd have handheld games and be like, man, it'd be great to play this on the TV. And when I'd have big console games, I'd be like, man, it'd be great to play this on a handheld. And I was so excited about Xenoblade Chronicles 3D that's the very reason I bought the new 3DS on launch day, was because I wanted to play that game, because I hadn't played it yet, and I just thought, playing it portably would be perfect, and it really was. I mean, I thought that it was the ideal way to play it, but it would have been even better to have the full console experience with the better graphics, even if it wasn't necessarily a huge graphical upgrade from one to the other. And right now, with the Switch, that's what we get. I mean, with every game, pretty much. I mean, granted, Xenoblade Chronicles 2, the visuals get downgraded quite a bit, at least as far as resolution goes, when you play in portable mode. But it's not so drastic to where it completely hurts the experience. It's just a little jarring. But, games like Skyrim and all of that, I mean, they're perfect for this system. And with Fallout, I really feel like, well, for one, they have to do Fallout 4. They can't do 3 or New Vegas unless they do them at the same time. Because, with Skyrim, the reason why they could release Skyrim, which is it's over 6 years old, they could release it because it's the last mainline Elder Scrolls game that came out. Whereas with Fallout, if they were to do 3 games ago, that would just be, really would be the perfect troll bait more than anything else, Give people a reason to say, oh, the Switch is underpowered, it can only play Fallout 3. And personally, I tried playing Fallout 3 on PC, and I just could not get into it at all. I think Fallout 4 I probably could a little bit more, because it's not so brown and gray, but it did not hook me. And maybe I just got a little spoiled by how good the gunplay is in Destiny, but it just was not for me. So I think Fallout 4, if they put that on the Switch, which I think it really has to be that if they're going to do a Fallout game, that would work. Alright, so Joe, why don't you give us your first wishful prediction?
Guys, I would love to see A Link Between Worlds, which is not an old game. I think it came out in 2015 or 16 on the 3DS. I want that on the Switch. It's one of my very favorite Zelda games. It's definitely one of my favorite 2D games, period. I think it'd be great on the Switch. What do you guys think?
Well, I never actually got a chance to play that one, mostly because of the fact that I wanted to play Link to the Past before playing Link Between Worlds. And I have Link to the Past on SNES, but I think I got stuck at a certain point, and I just never got back to it. And so I just kind of held off on Link Between Worlds, even though it looks like it would be a great game. And if you're right, and it does come to the Switch, I will play it there.
So, Joe, what if I told you that A Link Between Worlds was actually 4 years old?
Yeah, it is.
It came out in November of 2014.
13.
And I remember that distinctly, or 13, excuse me. I remember that distinctly because Catherine was born in 2013, and that was the last time I played it. And I popped it in my system, played it through to completion, and it was glorious. And then I put it back in the case and eventually traded it in. And I've been looking to purchase it back ever since. And unfortunately, it's $50 right now, used on 3DS. So I have no desire to really plop down $50 to some jerkwad who's selling it to me for quite a bit. Now, in Europe, apparently, it has made Nintendo Selects for 3DS. Which is what some people, there was a rumor going around that Nintendo was asking for back-of-the-box quotes. That's kind of the thing, is people either think it's going to be a Switch port that's going to get quotes, or if it's going to be a Nintendo Selects. I'll be happy with either one, but I'd be thrilled with a Switch version.
Man, 4 years old. I guess I was still in my 30s. Maybe I need to start predicting or reflecting on games in terms of decades. I was in my 30s when that came out. I was in my 20s when that came out.
You should start a podcast like Gaming at 30.
That sounds like a great title for a podcast.
Yeah, I think it's vacant, so you could probably take it.
We did just take them down off the front page of the site, but still in the old podcast feed if you guys want to listen to a great podcast in the back in the day.
Oh, man.
Yeah, I have to say, though, with Link Between Worlds, I think that the Nintendo Selects thing is a lot more likely. Just because I can't really see them porting a 3DS game to the Switch necessarily. But what do you... I mean, this is kind of going slightly off topic. Well, it is a little bit, but it's related to 3DS and Zelda. What do you guys think of the rumor that they are potentially remaking Link's Awakening as a 3D Zelda?
Oh, that'd be great. It's sort of like what they did with Metroid 2, right? Where they made Samus Returns.
Yeah, although that's really still a 2D Metroid, though. I mean, the idea of putting Link's Awakening into as a actual 3D game when it was originally just a 2D.
Oh, I thought you meant just kind of 2.5
isometric top down. Yeah, 2.5. Like Link Between Worlds is 2.5.
That's true. I guess right. That's actually probably a little more likely. I mean, I think that it would be really interesting to see it in 3D, but at the same time, the 2.5D does seem like it makes more sense.
Right,
so,
with 3D objects. Mm-hmm.
So, Joe, you loved A Link Between Worlds, but your first, correct me if I'm wrong, but your first Zelda experience was A Link to the Past.
No, my first was the original NES version.
Oh, really? I forgot. You're so old. But your favorite is
that whole thing was
I
intentional,
did.
premeditated.
It was premeditated. But your favorite is Link to the Past. That is true, correct?
It was until Breath of the Wild came out, but they're very close in contention. Yeah.
Jump on board that bandwagon. But anyways, believe me, I'm on the bandwagon too. That's why I can say it. But anyways, Link's Awakening rather was my first Zelda game that I remember actually. And yeah, I got it on Game Boy and it was fantastic. If they could reimagine it similarly to the way they handled A Link Between Worlds, that would be cause for me to dust off my 3DS. And I would happily do it on 3DS or on Switch. I mean, obviously, it goes without saying, I want every game on Switch. I mean, I want the next CD Projekt Red game, Cyberpunk. I want that on Switch, okay? It's not going to happen, but I want it there. But I think that Link's Awakening remake in the Link Between Worlds engine would be just fantastic. And I'd gladly dust off my 3DS for that.
All right. Well, let's get back on topic since I got us a little bit off there. So here we're on. I guess we're still on wishful thinking. So mine is that we're going to get the Metroid Prime trilogy on Switch, which that I think is very possible and even reasonably likely. Though I don't think we'll necessarily have it announced with this January Direct. But my wishful aspect, the part that's less realistic, is that it's going to have the options to either use the Wii Pointer controls or to use the GameCube controls.
Interesting.
I really hope that your wishful thinking here comes to fruition. Okay. Here it comes. I'm going to stare at my copy of Metroid for the Nintendo Entertainment System as I say. I've never completed a Metroid game. And I've heard that the Prime Trilogy is really kind of the way to go right now. I would love for that to be on Switch. I'd eat that up. But I'm not going to go back and treasure hunt the Wii collection that came out or anything else. I'm just going to wait for it to come on Switch, so hopefully it does.
You actually wouldn't have to treasure hunt because they have it up on the eShop. You can buy it for $20 for the collection.
Oh, you just did that to him.
So,
but I would still wait. I mean, because I think there's a strong chance we're going to get this on the Switch.
See, and here's the problem with the eShop. Unless it's a fantastic deal, I'm not interested in purchasing anything from Nintendo digitally outside of the current generation.
That's fair.
Because I've been burned so many times.
Well, and like I said, I mean, it's probably worthwhile to wait anyway, because I think this is going to happen.
Right.
Maybe not with the options for both controls, but the trilogy itself. Especially if Metroid Prime 4 doesn't come this year, then they would have to do something. I mean, I should say they will. I think that there's a chance they would do something, especially since they're bringing forward Bayonetta 1 and 2, which up to this point, Bayonetta 2 has only ever been playable on Wii U. And, they're doing it before they release Bayonetta 3, which will probably be this year. Or at least I think there's a good chance, but I guess we'll see.
Good year for Nintendo.
So, Joe, I know Kenny, I know Kenny hasn't played those Metroid Prime games. Did you play them, Joe?
Yeah, I played all of them. Love Metroid. And Kenny, I would just say, if you want to experience some Metroid right now, get the 3DS one that just came out.
It is very, very good. That one, and you could even just get Super Metroid on Virtual Console. Although if you want to wait, you can too, because Super Metroid is still such an amazing Metroid game, and I think it's the one that everyone should start with.
Yeah, well, here's the thing: is like I said, I've got Metroid on my NES old cart. I've got Super Metroid on my 3DS through the Virtual Console.
Play it on there.
I have Super Metroid on my SNES Classic. So I've got no end of options to dive into Samus' suit. I just haven't found myself capable of actually staying there.
Yeah, I mean, what I would say is, especially since you have it on 3DS, play it on 3DS, because the D-pad is perfect for that. And it plays really well. Plus, of course, it has save states. So if you are someone who isn't so hardcore that you have to play without ever using save states, they definitely make the game easier, because it can get quite frustrating at times. But it's still really, really great.
Yeah, games from our childhood, they were very frustrating because they could be, because we had all the time in the world to consume them. I no longer have that time. It's a precious commodity. I'd easily, spending $60 on a video game these days isn't as hard as putting 60 hours into a video game. So yeah, save states, they're my friend. I'm down with them.
I don't think I've ever actually beaten Super Metroid without save states, which, some people would probably take away my gamer card for that, but I don't care. I still love the game. I think I played through it probably 4 times. One time, the second time I played through it was right after I beat it the first time, and it's just so great. But anyway, moving on here, Kenny, why don't you give your next wishful prediction?
All right, speaking of so great, it'd be so great. It'd be so great if EA would stop sucking. I mean, EA didn't do a damn thing in 2017 that I actually liked. Not a damn thing. And I have studied this. I was looking for something. I'm like, anything, please. I love their FIFA series. I know, I'm weird. I like soccer. But the Switch version was crap. And so I was like, no, I'm not buying the PS4 version. I want to buy a Switch version, but you also need to give me a complete version. Well, they didn't do that. EA could really turn around in 2018 in its favor if they would just open their damn vault. I need legacy games. I'm talking Dead Space. I'm talking Mass Effect. Come on, put Mass Effect Trilogy on the Switch. Hell, charge $100 for it. I don't care. I'd play Mass Effect until I was blue in the face. I mean, that would be fantastic. Dead Space, same thing. Great. There's a bunch of other games that could come too. Dragon Age. Basically, EA needs to understand that the Switch is here to stay. It's selling like hotcakes, so you can't use that bullshit excuse of, we don't think it, we want to see how it sells. We want to see how this half-arsed FIFA game sells before we really decide to put our great games on the console. No, enough of that. Give us your legacy games. It's really easy. Cash money. Buy now.
Totally with you. not just because of my well-known love for Dead Space, but also it's a cash cow. I mean, the Switch is the fastest growing console of all time. And it's not slowing down anytime soon. They can barely keep them on the shelves. You need to get something out. Go to some of your great recent titles. It was just a generation ago.
Yep. Just do it. I understand they can't put Andromeda on the Switch. I don't think anyone wants that. But you could easily put Mass Effect 1, 2, and 3 on that Switch. I know you could put Dead Space 1, 2, and 3. And that's the other thing is, okay, so people don't like Mass Effect 3 as much. I don't see anyone playing 1 and 2 and then not playing 3. Or people don't like Dead Space 3 enough. I totally see people playing 1 and 2 and not playing 3. Put them out as collections. Again, make them a collection, charge a premium. Joe, you're a Dead Space fan. Would you pay $60 for Dead Space 1, 2, and 3 on Switch?
Easily. Wouldn't even hesitate.
Okay. Who wouldn't pay $60 for Mass Effect 1, 2, and 3 on Switch? I mean, I'll be honest, at this point, like, you could probably charge me $25 a pop for each of those titles, 6 of them, and I would pay it. So there you go. There's your premium. You don't even need to put it out on a cartridge. Just because the 64-bit cartridge have been pushed back in production, unfortunately.
Right.
That was actually one of my wishful thinkings. Originally was that they would just release the 64 gigabyte cart. That way we could not have so much storage space. But regardless, just put them on the eShop. Just seriously, dude, pop them over. Just do it. Anyways,
Pop 'em over.
that's enough of that. That's enough of that. EA, quit sucking.
Yeah, I like that one. That's good.
Yeah, I mean, personally, I probably wouldn't buy Mass Effect on Switch, but I still think it would be a good idea to put them there. The only reason I wouldn't buy them is because of the fact that I still have all 3 on PC, and even though playing them portably is great, I like mouse and keyboard for that game, and I don't know, I don't think I really want to replay them. Like, I tried restarting the trilogy several years ago, and I played a good chunk of Mass Effect 1, and then I just stopped playing, and I haven't gone back to it since. So, I wouldn't buy them, but I still think it would be a good idea. I agree with you on that. I do...
Alright, Nathan. I see you that, and EA, if you're listening, I will buy Nathan's copy and give it away on Twitter.
There you go.
Right there. I'll buy 2 copies of the Mass Effect trilogy and give one away on Twitter if you just put it on the freaking console. Just do it.
One game I do think that would be really neat to bring over, and this one got kind of mixed reviews, but personally I loved it, is Mirror's Edge Catalyst. It's not the easiest game as far as, the parkour and everything, but personally I had such a great time with that game. I put around 50-60 hours into it, and I just had a blast with it. I mean, it's far from a perfect game, but it was a big improvement over the original in my opinion. And I would gladly buy that one on Switch.
Wait, you just said you put 50-60 hours in a Mirror's Edge Catalyst?
I did, because I like doing the collectibles.
Oh. Okay. Wow, I didn't even know that was, like, capable. Like, it was, like... so that's very interesting. It actually makes me very interested in that game. I never played the original Mirror's Edge. And I got very interested once Catalyst was announced, and I was like, I'm going to see how this does, and then I'll go back and play Mirror's Edge, and then play Catalyst if it does well. And it didn't, as we all probably recall. Didn't do fantastic. I think it's actually on PSN right now for like, or at least recently it was during the winter sale for like $5. I didn't pick it up at that point in time. That's interesting, though, that you got that much mileage out of it.
Yeah, I mean, it just depends on how you feel about those kinds of things. I mean, a lot of people didn't like slowing down to pick up collectibles and everything, because there are things that you have to actually stop to get. But for me, that's my bread and butter. I mean, that's one of the things I love the most. And the free running in that game is really fun, even though, of course, it's also really easy to die. But I like it a lot better than the original, because the original, it frustrated me that it was not really possible. Well, I shouldn't say it wasn't possible, but it was very, very difficult to get through the entire game without ever using a gun. And I didn't want to use a gun. I just wanted to run, beat people up if I needed to. The combat was atrocious. And you couldn't really do that in the original game. I mean, like, I played through probably about 75% of it, and then there was just this one point where all the enemies have guns, and I just got so freaking frustrated that I could not continue playing without using guns, and so I finally just took someone's gun and said to heck with it, especially because there wasn't an achievement or anything to give me a reason to try to get through the rest of the game non-lethal, at least not on PC. But yeah, I really liked it. I thought Catalyst was really, really good and really fun. And it's great for doing when you're like listening to something, like if you like listening to podcasts or audiobooks or whatever. It's fantastic for that. But anyway, so let's see here. Joe, you're next. Wishful.
eShop. We need it. We really need it. And it might be that it somehow plays into the whole online subscription that Kenney had listed in one of his realistic ones. But in some form, we need an eShop with the classics. That's what I mean by eShop. I should be clear about that. I need to be able to get Zelda again for the 50th time. The original Zelda, Link to the Past. Give me those old games. Transfer my old purchases. That would be amazing. But I need to play some of those games right now. I don't want to go back to the old consoles to do it.
Yeah, I'm definitely with you on that. I mean, there was a rumor before the January event last year. There was a rumor that, or actually no, it wasn't before the January event. It was before the Switch actually fully launched. Like, you know, when it was before it launched for everybody but the press. There was something in the UI that suggested that you could basically get the Virtual Console games because they were tied to accounts now. But of course, whether or not that's actually the case is something that's yet to be seen. But I do really want that, because there are definitely some games that I'm just like, man, I would love to play that game, but I don't really want to play it on my Wii U or my Wii for that matter. Like, I really want to get Mario Party 2 transferred over to my Switch, because that is so much fun, but I don't have really great controllers for that. And so, yeah, Switch, please.
I agree, Joe, that I really do want a competent VC on my Switch. But, unfortunately, I get the sneaking suspicion that Nintendo is interested on selling more of these classic consoles, which are mobile to a point. I mean, it's a hell of a lot easier to pick an NES Classic or an SNES Classic up, throw it in your suitcase, take it with you. But it's not playable on the bus. It's not playable at work. It's not playable at ballet or whatever. So I want all my Nintendo in one place, and the Switch is just perfect for that. I wish they'd understand that. I'm still gonna buy the SNES Classic. I'm still gonna buy the re-release of the NES Classic when it comes out this summer. At least it's supposedly coming, and I'm sure there'll be an N64 Classic, and I'll pick that up too. That's just it. Those are collectible items, and I'm a loser with too much money now in my 30s, and so I'll buy them. But I really want to play them on my Switch. So I agree with you. Unfortunately, I'm getting the vibe from Nintendo that they're just not interested in doing that.
I actually have to disagree with you on that, Kenny, because I think that even though the NES Classic and SNES Classic have done really well, Nintendo doesn't make much of anything on those. I mean, the SNES Classic, they definitely make more, but I still think they're going to do Virtual Console in some form. It's probably not going to be exactly the same as it's been before. Hopefully it'll be better. But, I mean, they make a killing on selling Virtual Console games, and I think they would just have to be, honestly, idiots to not do Virtual Console anymore, because people will buy the games. Whether they're rebuying them or buying them for the first time, people are going to buy them.
Nintendo's been idiotic in the past.
Yes,
though.
but they've also gotten smarter. Just
well,
look at the
that's true.
Switch's, first 10 months. I mean, it's done incredible.
Yeah, but look at the app. Look at the phone app.
Yes, the phone app is terrible.
Look at the backwards.
But we're talking about phone app versus Virtual Console, two very different things. And I mean, like we saw when they did Virtual Console on the Wii, I mean, it wasn't perfect. It definitely would have been better if they had save states and whatnot, but they had a massive library for Virtual Console, and everything was pretty reasonably priced. And so And I mean, obviously they made a ton of money off of it because they continued to do it, even if it wasn't anywhere near as good on Wii U or 3DS.
Well, and I suppose the last point I'll make in this little heated debate we've got going here, thanks Joe, is as a marketer, I would be remiss to not mention that Nintendo is making a butt ton of something off of their NES Classic and SNES Classic, and any line that they release after this that they do similarly to these other releases, where it's a limited quantity release, and that is mindshare. They are in the news. They are in papers. They're in magazines. They're on podcasts. They're on television. They're on televisions as adults are working out in their 50s at the YMCA. And so my point is, like, what they're doing is they're creating marketing, and they are creating this idea of scarcity, and if you see it on the shelf, you're gonna have to buy it because A, it's your childhood, and B, it's limited. So they are actually I think they're playing a deeper game here, and I think they've always kind of done that, even with the Wii. That goes back to the Wii, so and maybe even farther back. I just don't remember it. So that's just my last foray. I hope they have a VC. I hope they do, and they would make money hand over fist. But I don't think it's. I think it'd be short-sighted to suggest that they're not making a quality ROI off of releasing these little tiny stupid, basically, ROM-filled machines.
Well, what I mean
pies.
is that compared to what they make off of Virtual Console games, it's nothing. Because Virtual Console is a game. It's literally just a ROM file. I mean, that's all you're selling as a ROM file, which they can reproduce over and over and over easily. Whereas with the NES and SNES classics, the NES Classic especially, they were only selling for $60. Retailers hardly made anything on it. In fact, I think for the most part, it was figured out retailers actually didn't make a profit on those. It was more just the fact that it brought people into their store so that they'd spend more money, and that was essentially what they did. Whereas and the SNES Classic, I think, does make them some profit, definitely more. But even so, I don't know. It's something that's yet to be seen, and you could very well be right. I'm not saying that you're necessarily wrong. I'm just saying that personally, I think that they would be foolish not to continue Virtual Console because it is really easy money for them.
Hey, I feel like we've got another podcast here on basically like selling a console and like how money is made on that and everything. Joe, I think you've got ins on that. I think you could probably bring some stuff to the table there.
Which part?
That whole part. Basically like what a store's ROI is on carrying the SNES Classic. I mean, the Target that I walked into, they opened a box and gave them to us, and they never even cleared a space on the shelf for it. So they certainly didn't keep shelf space for it. But
that's funny you said that because I had a similar experience at a Best Buy.
Yeah, and when I worked at Best Buy, the Best Buy had the best employee discount I've ever had. It was 10% over cost when I worked there. That's all you paid. So Monster Power cables, I've got a ton of those. If anyone wants any HDMI cables, I'm sure they're fine. You can just give me a ring. Just joking. But I actually did buy a whole shit toad before I left. But we never got any discount on consoles because they made under 10% over the cost of a console. So most hardware was actually kind of like that in the gaming sphere. So anyways, that's a whole nother podcast. A lot of interesting conversation there. But I do agree, Joe, they need to start talking about VC. People are getting itchy.
Well, that was definitely a long tangent we went on there, but
I love
still
it.
Relevant. All right, so my next wishful prediction is that we're actually going to see something of Metroid Prime 4. Personally, I think it's probably just going to be more of a teaser trailer, but it's going to show at least some of what we can expect. Whereas, before all we got was the big S in space and the 4 going over it, and that was it.
Well, I think this ties into Joe's prediction, where there's going to be a logo and a date, and that's it. They're not going to have any images at all.
April 2018. So
April 2018, no screens. No screens, no early review copies. Just buy the game. Trust them.
No review copies. No.
Yeah, we're not done yet, by the way.
Well, if
isn't finished.
PUBG is any indication, it could just be getting Game of the Year without being complete.
Yeah, no joke. No joke.
Although it would probably still be less of a mess. But that's a whole nother topic.
That is a whole nother topic.
Alright, so getting back to wishful predictions, Kenny, let's get you the last one.
Cloud saves. I mean, it's so simple. Everybody's doing it. I've got 15 different ways on my phone to save things to a cloud. Yeah. I don't understand why I had to lose 2 completed Zelda save files, 190 hours, with the exception of Kurok seeds. If you're a purist out there, screw you. I'm not getting all those Kurok seeds. But I mean, almost everything else in both of my playthroughs was pretty much done, including Master Mode, right? So, lost, gone. Mario plus Rabbids, gone. I think I got through the second stage of Wolverblade, which was an accomplishment for me, okay, people? Gone. Like, all these games, gone. Just because there was no way to back them up at all. And, okay, Nintendo, if you're going to be that damn hard-headed that I can't keep a save file on my micro SD card, then piss off and give me a cloud save already. Like, just do it. Just do it. Done.
Yeah, it's got to happen. So I recently got a PS4 Pro, and I didn't have to really do anything special to get my save files back. I just went into the menu on the Pro, and I just went to cloud storage, and I picked my game, and I actually do it every time I want to go back to a game. I've done it like 8 or 9 times. It's so simple. A couple of clicks and you get your save file off the cloud. I don't even think about it. I just get it as being part of a, was it PSN Plus or whatever? You just get it. It's great.
Yeah, I'm definitely with you guys there. That it needs to happen. I mean, I haven't had, obviously Kenny's disastrous situation, but I have had enough experiences in the past of losing saves, mostly corrupt memory cards back in the PS1 days, but it sucks, and it's definitely something that there's no reason why they can't do it. They just need to do it. I mean, and even if they decided not to do cloud saves, which, I mean, they should, but even if they decided not to do them, they should at least make it possible to put your saves on your SD card, so that you can, just easily bring them up, no problem.
No doubt.
Man, at this point, if they introduced that as a solution, I'd be calling Nintendo. I'm not lying. I would be that guy. I would call them and be like, screw you. Here I was thinking you were coming up with some masterful execution of how other people could avoid my situation. Yeah. And all you're doing is unhooking the gate to freaking saving them on an SD card. Cloud saves. Guys, charge me. Like, I don't even care. I remember when PS Plus first was announced, like, one of the benefits was having cloud saves. And I'll be honest, that was one of the perks, because I lost my PS3. I was living in South Korea, and it yellow lighted, and I had to buy a Korean PS3. And I was really scared. I was like, how the hell is this going to work? Guess what? It did. It did. It worked. The Nintendo Switch should have been no different.
Yeah. Especially since it wasn't your fault. Not to get into that story even deeper, but I mean, you did nothing wrong. Your system bricked.
I'm just gonna go cry. I'm just gonna cry up here. I'm just gonna go cry.
All right, Joe, what's your last wishful prediction?
So mine is a little bit of a joke, and it actually confused Kenny earlier today. So in our spreadsheet, I wrote Mario Odyssey DLC as if I'm a Mario Odyssey fan. I'm that guy that nowhere else in the world exists, apparently. I'm the only one who doesn't care for this game. But my joke is not that exactly. It's that the DLC would fix the controls. I might be willing to pay $10 to get the controls fixed. I struggle a lot controlling that game, and I've been playing video games for 20-something years. So I don't think it's a me problem, although a lot of people love this game, and it's one of the best-selling games on the system, so maybe it isn't a problem.
So I'm not entirely clear on what you mean. I mean, I get, definitely that you can't do the gesture controls when you're playing like in handheld mode, or if you're playing with anything other than split Joy-Cons. But if you're playing with split Joy-Cons, I'm not really understanding it. I mean, you can kind of do some of them, like you can do the hat spin thing. That's reasonably doable, but you can't really do the tracking hat or anything like that.
So, Joe, do you mind? This might be good information for you too.
Do it. Go for it.
So I actually was in the same camp as Joe. I started Super Mario Odyssey the day that I got it, and the minute that I booted up the game and it told me, this game, you should really try motion controls because there's stuff you can do that you can't do with the other controllers. I was just like, oh, this is a bad introduction. This is a bad thing. Skyward Sword was actually my favorite Zelda game minus the controls, up to Breath of the Wild. But so what I will say is this, is I actually eventually over the break, the winter break, forced myself to sit down and play split Joy-Con. And then a friend of Joe and I's and Nathan, you might know him too, Jeremy Gregory on Twitter. He was like, man, and that dude is hardcore about two things: Destiny and apparently Mario, because he put like 150 hours into Odyssey already. I'm not sure how he's still going, but he is. He's probably just jumping around the Mushroom Kingdom, hanging out. But he said he played the whole game with Procon, and I was like, no way. And then, you know what? I was like, well, I played Breath of the Wild with Procon, and the bow aiming it worked. It worked really well. So I did. I put the split Joy-Con down, I picked up the Pro Controller, and I never looked back. There were some gestures that I found were a little bit harder to do with the Procon, because instead of having split, you've got one controller, so you've got to actually let go of the controller with one hand and then do the shake movement. It's still a pain in the butt, right? Buttons. I like buttons. But Joe, seriously, just go and avoid that screen and just pick up the Procon and just mirror the motions they're telling you to do with the split Joy-Con, and it does work.
All right, I'll give it a shot after I finish Metro Last Light.
Yeah, and I mean, I ended up just basically surrendering to the split Joy-Con because the ability to do like the homing cap, that in and of itself is that's probably the one ability that's most useful of all the other things. Most of the other things you can get by without doing it all. Like I've played some in handheld mode and I've been able to manage, but then there are times where I'm just like, it would be really nice to be able to have the homing hat, so I'll pop off the Joy-Cons and play in tabletop mode, if I can't use the TV. But I think definitely the biggest issue with that game is the fact that you can't do certain motions, at least not easily, without the split Joy-Cons. So I can definitely understand that, but at the same time, come on, son.
Word.
Alright, so my last wishful prediction is that we're going to get a port of Smash Bros. 4 on Switch, obviously, but it's going to not only include all the stuff from Wii U, but also the stages from 3DS. I played the 3DS version a lot more than I played the Wii U version of Smash, mostly just because it came out earlier, but there are some really great stages on 3DS, and I can't think of any reason why they wouldn't include those. And while I don't know that it'll necessarily be talked about with the Direct this week, I still want it to.
I think it'd be really easy for them to, right? I mean, obviously, porting over Mario Kart was pretty simple. I feel like Smash 4 would just be a no-brainer. First of all, you'd get a ton of people talking. Even if Smash 4 was the only port that they announced at this Direct, and it was the primary focus of the Direct, Smash has such a cult following that I feel like it would still be a system seller. And again, I think that, as I mentioned earlier, I think a real obvious addition here would be a GameCube style controller, whether it be Procon wireless or just a USB port that works with the dock or whatever.
Joy-Cons with the analog triggers.
Specialized Joy-Con would take a little bit more R&D.
Oh yeah, definitely. I'm just saying that would be awesome if they did it.
Oh my gosh, yeah. And by the way, while you're at it, just announce a GameCube virtual console. I mean, good God, I never owned the GameCube, and I have a great reverence for a lot of the games that came out on GameCube, and I'd love to experience them. So yeah, GameCube Joy-Cons. Woo-wee.
All right, so let's go ahead and move on into our ridiculous predictions. And let's just go ahead and start off with those. Joe, start us off on this one.
Sure. Ridiculous. Witcher 3. We talked about this already.
But not enough. Honestly, this was going to be my first ridiculous, and then I noticed you stole it from me, and you did, because you admitted.
You can have it back.
No, I don't need it. You'll take it. But, someone the other day, I said I'll take it in any form possible on Twitter or something like that. Any concession that needs to be made, I will take it. I will play it in like the 420p that apparently Xenoblade Chronicles 2 eventually gets down to in handheld mode. I'll play it in whatever resolution necessary. And then Andrew said it was going to be a Polish Tetris game, and I told him, no, it's going to be Gwent, and I'll take it. I would take Gwent. Gwent on Switch would be awesome.
Yeah, Witcher doesn't really appeal to me personally. I just have certain reasons why I wouldn't play those games. I mean, like, I have the first two on PC, and I played, I think, probably like 6 or 7 hours of the first one. And I mean, I know the gameplay is totally different from one to the next, because the first one is very PC controls, which I like the controls. I actually like them fine, and I dabbled in Witcher 2 a tiny bit, but at the time I just had a laptop that didn't run it well. Now I could easily max it out, but it's just a series that there are certain issues I have that would keep me from actually being able to really enjoy those games.
Fair enough. Though you mentioned gameplay, and I played a little bit of. I have not completed The Witcher 1. I played a little bit of The Witcher 1 on PC, mainly because I don't really have a PC that even plays that well enough. And now it's so old, it just looks jank. Witcher 2, loved it on my 360. Great game. But it's really hardcore in a way that even Dark Souls can't touch. Because The Witcher 2 required you to pretty much be prepared for a situation by walking into it, finding out what's there, and then like reloading and pumping potions. You couldn't possibly know what to like prepare for without walking into an area. The Witcher 3 is a lot more accessible, and I mean, damn if it doesn't have one of the best open worlds and one of the most fantastic stories. So if it's gameplay, which it doesn't sound like it is,
not. It's not the gameplay at all.
Yeah, fair enough.
All right, well, Kenny, what your first ridiculous prediction?
All right, well, guess what? If Skyrim's a success and eventually Fallout's a success, because that happens in the alternate universe I'm currently living in, I want Morrowind and Oblivion on my Switch. Why not? I want all the open worlds. I feel like Morrowind is one of those games that's very fabled. And I feel like it would just be I'd buy it. I'm sure there's plenty of people that buy it. I don't know how many people would play it, but I'd buy it. And Oblivion was really like the heyday of my PC gaming. I was my first year in college. I took off the day that it came out, drove through a snowstorm, an hour to get to the Best Buy that I pre-ordered the collector's edition. I own Oblivion. I own the Oblivion Collector's Edition on PC, 360, and I own the Game of the Year edition on PS3. Man, I would dive back into some Sean Bean-licious, Patrick Stewart-licious Oblivion in 2 seconds. Just, close shut the jaws of Oblivion. That's what I want to do on my Switch.
Does Sean Bean die in that one?
Well, they both do. Spoiler alert. It's also, 11 years old now, so...
Yeah, you're good.
Yeah, he dies at the end because his character, Martin the Monk, turns into Akatosh. Boom, I'm a nerd.
I never played Morrowind, but I would definitely be down for Oblivion. I never got super far into it, but I did enjoy it. I think the one thing that ultimately made me stop playing the game was mods, because I ended up having Master Sword, which had 1,000,000 attack, and I had Bigoron's sword and the Megaton hammer, and of course a Hylian shield. And I enchanted my Bigoron sword with ice, and I can't remember if I did anything with the Megaton hammer. But anyway, point is that I just, I did mods, and I ultimately found myself not using any of the actual regular in-game weapons, and I don't know. That's part of why I have not even bothered with getting the Master Sword in the Switch version, because that's all I would use.
See, that's
It's
when
not as
people...
bad, yeah.
When people started complaining about mods not coming to Skyrim and Switch, I was like, I don't really care. I mean, I get that there's some decent mods out there. There's one that's what is it? It's like Skyrim Survivor or Skyrim Frozen Wilds or something like that. Basically, where you've got to you get cold and you have to eat and you have to sleep, and that's okay. That's kind of intriguing, I guess, if you have absolutely no time in your life at all for anything but video games. But mods in general break the experience for me.
Yeah.
Even with the Skyrim one, I found myself, or the sword and the tunic and everything, I found myself being well, but my character's kind of like a mage fighter, and I really like the idea of having to balance heavy armor for gauntlets and greaves, and then doing a magic specific tunic, so that and I'm well, but obviously if I've got the Hero of frickin' Times tunic, then I'm gonna wear that because it's got 50 armor at level 2. Yeah. So yeah, I hear you there with the mods. I was so deep into Oblivion. I never played around with the mods too terribly much because I just didn't want to break the system. And back then it was the Wild West. I mean, you downloaded a mod, you could blue screen your PC. Yeah. But if you weren't paying attention, or porn. Just straight up porn. That was always also a very possible find. But I was so deep into Oblivion, I bought horse armor.
Wow.
Yep.
First person I know that's done that.
I'm an enabler, Joe. I enabled the whole damn industry. Loot boxes, you can blame me.
Battlefront 2 is your fault.
It's my fault that the single player was terrible because loot boxes, because horse armor.
Wow.
Yeah, definitely. All right, let's see, where were we? I guess it's my turn. So my insane prediction that is definitely not going to happen, or is unlikely to happen, is Red Dead Redemption 2 coming to the Switch.
In the form of a card game.
It's just gonna it's gonna be a light gun game. It's gonna be I'm trying to remember what the name of the game is that they had on the NES.
Duck Hunt?
No, not Duck Hunt. The one that they have. Duck Hunt actually has a move based on that game. The Duck Hunt dog has a move based on that game in Smash Brothers. Anyway, it's like a Wild West one with that sort of thing. So.
Oh, I know the game you're talking about.
Yeah, you lost me there, but I will say that if Red Dead 2 gets announced for Switch and it has a light gun control option, that means that your Metroid Prime trilogy could very well have Wii controls. So there you go. I mean, that's just like a win-win.
Let's get you a meeting with Reggie.
My body is ready.
Yeah. All right. So, Joe, what's your next ridiculous prediction?
All right, so I'm going to put my next two together because on their own, they're both completely ridiculous. If you put them together, it's even more ridiculous. So I'm talking to hardware here, boys. I want a Switch XL, and I can get the Switch XL in two ways. They can either reduce the bezel size and keep the form factor the way it is. Those are some massive bezels by 2018 standards, even by 2017 standards.
Yeah,
the other way is to actually just make the device bigger. Now, the challenge of making it bigger, of course, it makes it less portable. But if I'm portable with it, I put it in a case anyway, and the case is massive because it has to protect the device anyhow. I'd be fine with a less protective case that fit a larger Switch if I got a bigger screen out of it and bigger Joy-Cons. So that was one of them. The other one, which is similar, is give me a Switch home console. So it's like the PlayStation TV, so it has no screen, it looks like an Apple TV or a Chrome box, and it has a little slot for the game cartridges, and it plugs right into your TV. Boom, give me some more Switch hardware, boys.
So, okay, if they made the console bigger, they'd have to redesign Joy-Con. Unless they didn't. In which case, I suddenly have, and I really don't want to get too political on here, but I think it'd just be hilarious to envision two tiny Joy-Con on the sides of like my Surface or an iPad. Huge screen, small Joy-Con, just real small. Because could you imagine like if Nintendo announced Switch XL and everything's bigger and just GameStop employees everywhere are just banging their heads against the walls? Like, when someone's going to come in with their Pro-Con and it's going to be like the small version with their XL and they're like, this is what I can find, this is what it came with. And they're like, no, it didn't. Like, it's awful. Also, Joe, it sounds like you want like a 42-inch 4K TV with a PS4 Pro. Right there.
I think it'd be great, guys. I really do. You know, with touch control, I can just walk up there and slide my finger around. It'd be perfect. Severed on a 45-inch screen. Yes.
God.
Well, they could just do like what I suggested in the intro, that they make an extra large Switch that's 42 inches, and you can just mount it on your wall. In fact, instead of coming with a dock, it comes with a wall mount, and then you just mount it up on the wall and pop off your tiny Joy-Cons, and there you go.
All things that I want. I want more Switch hardware. I want a Zelda edition. I want a Samus edition.
Oh God,
make it happen. Gold. I want a gold Switch.
That's the last thing we need is game-specific consoles. Oh my gosh. I've got my Breath of the Wild Switch and my Odyssey Switch and my Red Dead 2 Switch.
I just want editions, man. Just like there's 3DSs. That's all I'm asking for, Kenny.
Oh, it's awful. It's awful. I have 3DS family consoles in my house. One of them is a 2DS. That's why I stuttered there. Because this is stupid. It's ridiculous. I do hope, though, that if they make a Switch XL, they don't call it the Switch XL. They call it the Switch Magnum Edition.
Well, what do you guys have for ridiculous predictions here? Don't leave it all on me.
Well, I think, is it my turn? I think it's my turn. I can't combine the last two, Joe. So you're just gonna have to deal with it, okay? All right.
Fine.
But I think that it's time, if you know what I mean, to play with power. And so therefore I feel like they need to create the power dock, okay? So the power dock would be like an external graphics card, maybe some external, CPU, basically just plug it into a PC, okay? And then you have 4K HDR Switch capable on your, 1080p television like most of America has. And this power dock would just be, super big.
Dude, you just blew my mind.
And it plays The Witcher 3.
Okay, what would you pay for that? $199?
It depends on what it can do. I'm not gonna lie. If this power dock, which is totally gonna happen, by the way, it leaked just now.
What?
Yeah, I'm writing the leak. right now. I'm the league. I'm deep throat. I'm Nintendo's
According to
deep
sources
throat.
close to Kenney. Yeah.
According to sources that are me in my head, I think the Power Dock's going to launch with 4K HDR capability, and it's going to allow the Switch to play Red Dead Redemption 2 at the same level as the Xbox One X, and I would pay $200 for it.
Yeah, that sounds like the right price.
And I'm not joking. I would pay $200 for an XL dock that would allow it to, or a Pro dock that would allow it to, even if games, with the understanding that there were certain games. Now again, a retail nightmare, absolute retail nightmare. But you know what? It's not like Nintendo hasn't done retail nightmares before. So, okay, I could only play The Witcher 3 with this dock. I'm still going to carry that dock around more than I'm going to carry my PS4 Pro around. So,
God, I would love that. Oh my God, that'd be unbelievable, dude.
or even if you could just play it at like 10 frames a second in portable mode, and then you could play it at 30 on Switch Pro mode. Switch Pro.
Switch Pro, I'm in.
Pro Switch. Switch Pro. Switch Pro's better. Switch Pro's better.
It's a Switch
Pro
Pro, bro.
Switch Pro Magnum Edition. Go big, go hard.
I love it.
Well, I guess mine is not quite as ridiculous as that, but my next one is that any virtual console games that have been purchased previously on Wii, Wii U, or 3DS will be available to download at no additional cost. And if I wanted to make it a little bit more realistic, we'll just say just Wii U and 3DS. And that if you transferred games from your Wii to your Wii U, that they would count.
See, I agree with you. That's not as ridiculous as mine. That's more ridiculous, looking at Nintendo's track record.
Well, realistically, as far as I'm concerned, even if they just allowed us to transfer them over with a small upgrade fee, like what they did with Wii to Wii U, I would be probably okay with that. I just don't really want to repurchase games. I mean, I didn't buy as much on Wii U as I did on Wii, but there are definitely some of the games that I have on one or the other that I would love to be able to have on my Switch, but really don't want to buy again.
Or at least if they could do some sort of voucher system.
Yeah.
Where it's like, look, we're not totally blind. We can see that you own The Legend of Zelda 8 times. So you get 50% off. Okay. All right. Sounds cool. I paid $250 for it on my Switch. No biggie. I don't know. They gotta do something though. They can't keep doing this. It's eventually people are just gonna get sick of it.
Yeah, they've got to figure out something. I mean, if it can actually be tied to an account, because I know that they already basically have purchases linked to your account. I mean, they did that a while ago, which is good, and it's a step in the right direction. But whether or not that'll mean actually being able to, just download the games you already own, well, I don't see that necessarily happening. But if they did decide to do some sort of upgrade fee, they should at least make an actual upgrade. I mean, at least with Wii to Wii U, there was an upgrade as far as the virtual console, that you could definitely do more, and it had save states and things like that, but I don't know. It's pretty ridiculous, thinking that they'd actually basically give people a bunch of virtual console games for free after already, making us rebuy them, but we'll see.
Well, and there hasn't been any major catastrophe like with the 3DS where they could just give it to early adopters. So I don't think we've got that. We don't have that going for us. So, I mean, basically, when VC opens up, be prepared to open up your wallets, whether it's for a subscription cost, which I'd be down for. I mean, I would totally subscribe to Nintendflix, or whatever, whatever it needs to be. Nintendo Prime. I don't care. I would. I don't know. Joe, let me ask you a question, and Nathan, you'll be next, and I'll go last. What would you be willing to pay to have the entire history of Nintendo at your fingertips on your Switch per month?
So I'm going to go back to a podcast that I did when I was in my 20s, where I said, this is before the Switch, this is, I think, before the Wii U, Nintendo needs a set-top box. It's basically an Apple TV, and you pay a subscription, so exactly what you're suggesting.
Sure.
$10 a month, might be a little premium.
Yeah.
I think I'm around $6 to $7 a month. I'm at the CBS All Access subscription level, $6 a month.
Okay. Nathan, what about you? Would you pay anything?
Honestly, it just doesn't appeal to me. I mean, I would much rather just buy the games I want to play and then have them for good. I'm not really that interested in the subscription service, because the fact is that I'm not even at a point where I necessarily want to go back to a whole lot of old games, unless
Sure.
it's a game I already own that I think is worth going back to. Like Mario Party 2 was the example I gave earlier. I mean, that's a game that I have hardly played at all, really, because I didn't actually have it on N64. I got it as a free game through Club Nintendo, and the little bit that I've had a chance to play with people, I've always had a blast with it. But I don't know. I guess I see your point at the same time, though, because, I could still play that kind of a game, but I just think that it wouldn't be worth the money for me, because I'm not sure I would get enough use out of it, if that makes sense.
So let me ask you this. I'm going to actually divert the train for a minute instead of talking about what I'd pay, because it's going to kind of divulge that. But let me ask you this. Would you gentlemen be willing to pay $10 a month for a year, or $100 a year, whatever, some nice little discount for an annual discount or annual purchase, for Nintendo's online service, including that membership fee into Nintendo Flix?
It's my only option.
Yep, it's the only option. Would you be willing to do that?
Yeah, I do that.
Nathan, would you do that? Remember, they're going to lock everything out here in a minute. This is the free trial right now. That's what we're living in. This is the free world. They're going to lock everything out unless you pay $10
if it was the only option, I would probably do the $10 a month thing. But if they had an option where you didn't have to, where it wasn't a virtual console thing, I probably would choose that instead.
See, because what they're about to offer us is $20 for a year. So that's less than $4 a month. And Joe, $6 a month I think is a real sweet spot for them to just say, hey, look, for $6 a month, you're going to have access to a majority of Nintendo's console titles, ever, all time, right here. Boom.
Right.
At your fingertips. And so $6 would be a sweet spot for me. And then $4 a month for the Switch services that I'm already getting, or with the promise of improvement, of course. So there's your $10 a month. And by the way, $10 a month or $100 for a year, that's $80 more minimum than what they're about to charge you. Mm-hmm. I mean, again, Nintendo has the ability to print money. They just need to really kind of reach out and grab it.
Yeah. Yeah, I think ultimately for me, it would just have to be... I think that I probably would not do it, because I'm not even sure how much I'll use the online. I mean, like, Splatoon 2 is the only thing I play online, and I don't even play that very much. And so, if they do the, $20 a year, $30 a year, whatever, I'm fine with that, but I think that paying for the extra stuff that I'm not really going to make use out of, I'm not even sure it's worth it. Like, as it is with PS Plus, I'm seriously probably just going to cancel my PS Plus after my subscription runs out for the year, because I don't really play anything online anymore. I don't need it for Netflix or Amazon, and those are pretty much the only things I really use the PS4 online for. And then I could, if I can't do that, then I just, watch it either on my PS3 or on my PC or my phone if I have to. So, I don't know. That's just me, though.
Yeah, I understand that.
Well, going into the last ridiculous prediction, obviously Joe already combined his, so why don't you go ahead and give your last one, Kenny?
Frickin' trophies, man. Just give me the trophies. I mean, I need something to, besides just my fond memories and a few tweets here and there, to mark the loss, the gaping hole that is my 190 hours in Breath of the Wild. for 2017. I need something. And, the Switch for me is, it's great because I can constantly play. I can play at home, I can play on the go. And it's not like the Vita where I've got a tiny screen no matter where I go. I've got my TV if I want to play it on my TV at home, and I've got the Vita screen or the Switch screen if I want to play it on the road. But there is no doubt that the place that I want to play, if I got the opportunity to do so, would be my PlayStation 4. That's where I'd want to play. Primarily because again, it's more powerful and it's got trophies. And I know that sounds stupid to some people, but how hard could it really be? I mean, come on, guys, just do it. Like, just do it. It's almost more ridiculous that it's not a thing than it is to assume that they'll add it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's funny, man. I've been playing a ton of Switch. I have been playing a ton of Switch. And then I got my Pro in December. I started playing the PlayStation a lot more. And I finished Sniper Elite 4 with all the DLC. And there's something about that sound, that notification when you do something. Whether it's expected, you finish a mission, or it's unexpected, you get 100 headshots in a row or something. That's not an actual trophy for that game. But you get that ding, that little notification pops up. There's something rewarding about that. Now, I'm not a trophy hunter. I don't care about my level or anything like that or how many I have. But during the course of the game, it is kind of nice to get that notification like you did something special. That'd be pretty cool to have. I'd be down for the trophies on the Switch.
It's a checkbox. You're able to say, I did virtually everything. So, that would help.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I mean, personally, I've never been one who cared much about trophies. In fact, I used to just think they were completely stupid. But there have been just a couple of games where I've actually wanted them. Not because of, once again, I don't care about gamer score or anything like that, even though that's not a thing on PlayStation. But the main thing for me has been just like, I love the game this much, and so I want to play as much of it, get as much out of it as possible. And that's, and that's like, for me with Persona 4 Golden. It's one of the games that I have the goal to get the Platinum Trophy, and I was super close on my third playthrough, and then I missed a couple of important things with getting relationships maxed out, and that made it impossible. And then, of course, there's that stupid trophy where you have to get Rize to say 200 different lines in battle, which is just, it's so dumb. I got that same trophy on Persona 5 without even trying, but Persona 4 I have not gotten it, and it's one of the things that has kept me from getting the platinum on that. But that's sidetracking. Point is that when you really love a game, it can be fun to shoot for those goals. Like right now I'm off and on going back to Final Fantasy XII, the Zodiac Age, because I really loved the PS2 version. I never did all of the stuff I wanted to do, and in this one it's like, okay, I have a list of all these things I need to do, and right now basically I have to complete the story, which is a piece of cake because I'm way over leveled, and then I have to complete the bestiary, which is going to be very time consuming. And then I have to beat like the hardest enemy in the game, which I basically just need to grind for. And then I have to do the trial mode, all the levels of that. And once I've done all those, which is like I think 4 or 5 trophies left, then I will have platinumed the game, which to me is great because I love that game. But I think with Nintendo, the problem is that I feel like they've already missed the boat. And I have a feeling that that's kind of their attitude too, is they've missed the boat and they think it's too late for them to bring them in. And I'm not saying that they can't do it, and I'm not saying that they shouldn't do it, but I have a feeling that that's kind of been their attitude and the reason why they haven't done it.
The PS3 trophy system came late to the party too. I remember having my PS3 and playing through all of Metal Gear Solid 4 a couple times, actually. And then Metal Gear Solid 4 got a patch like 3 years after release, I think it was. I don't remember, but it was crazy. I never did go back and get the trophies because I was like, I've played this game done. But I did seriously consider booting up Oblivion the other day, and I was like, PS3 is where it's at because I got the complete edition, and I was like, nope, never patched in trophy support. There's no way. And honestly, it's a little bit of a detriment to Skyrim on Switch for me as well. I just look. I don't even care how stupid it is anymore. People are like, "Oh, trophies are stupid. Gamer score is stupid. Doesn't mean anything." Look, I'm not interested in measuring to Joe. I'm already 5 points ahead of him, anyways, on PSN. I think I'm 21 and he's not. So
I'm 15.
Yeah, you suck. So I don't need to measure against Joe. I already know.
Measuring.
I already know. I'm better. I'm better than Joe. I know that. But what I want is I want a checkbox system where I can say, I got the platinum for Dragon Age Origins. That was pretty massive. I got the platinum for Dead Space. That was cool. There's been a couple other platinums too. All the Uncharted games except for 4, and I never played the most recent one. But there's something to be said for it. It's fun and it creates replayability. Why would you ever play Persona 4 Golden 3 times, Nathan, without that allure of a platinum? I mean, maybe you would have played through it twice, maybe.
Yeah.
But the third time sounds like you were trophy hunting.
Yeah, and that's really what it was. Like, I mean, I played through it the second time only because of the fact that I missed my chance for the epilogue, and I really wanted to get that. Plus, I was hooked on that game. I mean, it's fantastic. It still is. And it also felt really good to go back and do it on very easy, because the first time I played through normal, and there were so many times that I rage quit, that it was just really satisfying to kick everybody's butt really easily. But
yeah.
And I love the fact that you don't have to play through on higher difficulties to get all the trophies, because that's stupid. For that game, it's stupid because it's really hard at times. Anyway, but yeah, I mean, and Persona, I mean, the only real reason I even went back to it the third time, it was years after I played through it the second time, and it was just more like, I really want to play something on my Vita, and I hadn't played through Persona 4 in quite a while, and thought, well, you know what, I'm going to try to get that platinum, and I didn't, and so it's probably going to be a few more years before I go back and try to actually get it, but yeah, I mean, that's exactly what it is, and the checkboxes, that's the perfect way to put it, too, because that's exactly what it is for me. Is it's like I usually have my own checkboxes, but when they add additional things to where I'm like, okay, I could do that, I think that would be worth going for that, then it's definitely something that I like doing. So, but
amen.
Anyway, all right. So to finish things off, I'm going to go ahead and give my last ridiculous prediction, and that is that Destiny 2 is coming to Switch, even though that's definitely not happening, because mostly it's because of the fact that Bungie believes the online is such a problem because you can't play it portably and whatever. Anyway, it's not going to happen.
So the portable thing, by the way, did dawn on me. When I first saw it on your list, I was like, that doesn't even make sense. But I know that Splatoon 2 has a single-player mode, but let's face it, that's not what people are playing Splatoon 2 for.
Yeah.
So Splatoon 2 is a primarily multiplayer game, and it works just fine. I'm not saying Destiny would, but I'm saying that if that's their only complaint, it's kind of like, for the longest time I said that Skyward Sword would be fantastic if they didn't have motion controls, and all these people were like, it just won't work without motion controls. Be like, no, it could work. It's just gonna take some finagling. Same with Destiny 2. It'll take some finagling to work on the Switch, but it could work, and it could work as intended.
Yeah, but the difference between Destiny 2 and Skyward Sword, I would say, is that where Destiny 2, I think Destiny 2, the biggest problem is really just hardware. It's that the Switch is not really powerful enough to do Destiny 2, and it is an always online game, which is a problem, but obviously not as big of a problem as Bungie has made it out to be. I think it's really just a matter of power more than anything else, and that they don't want to take the time to optimize it for something as less powerful as the Switch, even though they've gotten it running on PC with integrated graphics. So I don't think that's really a great excuse. But
I feel like
with Skyward Sword, I'm not. I personally just don't see how it could work without the motion controls because of the fact that you have to actually like hit at certain angles for a lot of enemies in order to take them out. And if you take that away, then that takes away, well, really part of what made Skyward Sword unique compared to the other ones. But
oh well, sure, but I'm sure they could program it where if you hit X or whatever, A,
yeah,
and it knows the direction it needs to slice.
They might be able to make it work. But yeah.
But with Destiny 2, so there's two things. First of all, again, online connectivity. Well, it works with Splatoon 2, which is predominantly a multiplayer game. And then with power, Doom and Skyrim.
Yeah.
I mean, you can run Doom and Skyrim, but you can't run Destiny 2. Destiny 2 looks good, sure, but it doesn't look that good. So I mean I understand that that's the excuses they're making. I feel like they're kind of poor excuses. So I agree with you in that they're poor excuses.
Yeah, poor excuses, but I still think it's pretty much not going to happen. And with all the backlash they've been getting on the game lately anyway, I think that makes it even less likely. I mean, personally, I still love the game. I mean, I definitely see its flaws, and there are things I would change, but I'm having fun with it on PC. And, of course, it helps that I can run the game at 60 frames per second instead of just 30, which really does make a difference, considering, I don't know. The game still plays great on consoles, I will say, because I played, like, 600 or 700 hours of the original on PS4, and it was great. And anyway, it doesn't matter. Point is that's a ridiculous prediction. It's highly unlikely that it's going to happen, and we have probably been talking. We've been talking for about 2 hours now, so we probably should wrap things up. So gentlemen, it has been great talking to you, but why don't you go ahead and give me any of your final thoughts, anything that you have to say regarding this upcoming Direct, because I think we kind of got off topic a little bit with it being announced at the Direct, but at the same time it was a good conversation and fun.
Yeah, I think that there's some things in here that I'd love to see happen. I hope that some of them do. And I don't necessarily, they're not all on our realistic list. Some of them are our wishful list. There's a bright future in store for the Switch, and very much depending on how this Direct plays out. I know there's a lot of people who don't watch it, but there's going to be a lot of things written, a lot of content filmed, and a lot of content recorded based on the Nintendo Direct that we're about to experience. And hopefully Nintendo has remembered that as they plan it.
Yeah, I would just say that it's not just us. When I listen to like professional podcasters, they're always wrong too. So if you're excited about any of the things that we predicted, sorry, not going to happen.
Yeah, well, in the end, once again, this is all speculation. I do think that our realistic predictions are pretty realistic. And even some of our wishful predictions, whether or not they'll happen in the January Direct, I still think they're going to happen for the most part. Some of them maybe less so than others, but still. So it's been a great, nice long conversation. Nice to get all that stuff out and get thinking about different possibilities and what we'll see for the Switch in 2018. But for those of you who actually listen to this, why don't you tell us what your predictions are for the upcoming Direct, if you happen to hear it before then. And if not, I guess we can see how right and or wrong we were. Probably mostly wrong.
Yeah, great talking to you guys. Thanks for doing this.
So this has been, once again, The Frozen Gamer. Where can we find you guys on Twitter and so on and so forth?
Well, we both contribute to Geeks Worldwide, which is at thegww.com. We've got 15 plus podcasts going at any time on Stitcher and SoundCloud, iTunes, all that fun stuff. Myself, Joe Barhoum, very simple on Twitter at Joe Barhoum. And then Kenney, go ahead.
Yeah, and you can find me occasionally on Twitter at Ken Newville. And yeah, that's about it.
All right, and obviously I am at the Frozen Gamer 1987. This has been our talk about the Nintendo Switch presentation coming up. Everybody take it easy, and we'll talk to you later.